Hello, hello, hello. Today I'm talking with Steven Deneir. We talked about trusting people by default, his writing habits, and how he can never have enough Lego.
I'm Yves from Who's Agile. My pronouns are he and him. Welcome to my channel. You see a lot of agilists around me on this screen. If you want to hear me interviewing, please click that subscribe button because these are the people that I've invited so far. If you think I'm missing people, let me know in the comments. And that like button, well, if you liked today's interview, don't forget to click it.
Are you a Scrum or Agile enthusiast? Would you like to grow in your role? Or would you like to connect with peers around the world? Then the Online Scrum Master Summit is just for you. My name is Esther Schmid, and I'm the main host of this global summit. You can join us from the 17th to the 19th of June, all virtually. So join us because we have great keynotes, insightful talks, and hands-on workshops. So go to osms25.com and register for free. Looking forward to see you there.
Hello, hello everyone, and hello with me I have Steven. Good evening.
Hello, Yves. Very good evening also to you.
And I want to immediately jump into where I am and where you are. That's always a little bit nice to show the people I'm in Ghent, and you are actually not this far from me in Oost-Roosebeke.
Yeah.
So not that far. So both from Belgium, both from Flanders, and oops, and I'm trying to get us back on screen. And we're recording this. It's a little bit after 7 o'clock in the evening on both sides because we're in the same time zone as well. I like to show that also for the people that might be watching international because it's not always clear where people are. I've found that interesting. But Steven, for the people that don't know you, before we jump into the questions, could you give a quick introduction of yourself?
Yeah, well, Steven, I'm happily married for some years already because my kids are 21 and 25. They are still living at home at Hotel Mama. I think we are just doing too much for them. They just don't want to leave, probably. I assume that's the case. We'll see in a few years if that's still happening. Hobby is Lego. All Lego. You can never have enough of them, and the problem is that you then run out of space very quickly. That's
But
about
if the kids go out of the house, then you have more room for Lego again.
definitely. It's already there's one room reserved already from one of the two kids. Yeah,
Wow,
definitely.
already. So
Yeah.
long-term planning already there.
Yeah, well, in Agile we can't do such long-term planning, but yeah, for a room that is certainly possible. That is about hobby and private life and professional. I'm using the Scrum framework since about 17, 18 years now, something like that, probably, if not longer. And at that moment in Belgium, not a lot of stuff was available. So it was a lot of trial and error, more than we're used to. Then you search solutions. I got this entire sidetrack in project management. And so now I can also tell people why that does not work in a complex environment. So that's in short a bit about me.
Yeah, thank you for that introduction. Well, let's jump immediately into that very first question. What is something that people usually don't know about you, but has influenced you in who you are?
I think a lot of people think I'm extrovert, but in fact I'm not. I'm an introvert. I spent as kid a lot of time really on my own. Also already building Legos, but also going to drive with my bike. And at that age, when I was 15, there was no yet GPS or similar things to orientate yourself. And so I sometimes got lost in Flanders, and then all of a sudden you've
Wow.
driven about 60 kilometers, and then you recognize a sign and say, "Oh, damn, still 50 to go." And I think that helped me in that's one of the things that helped me in pushing through, keep going, and always trying to to do more and never give up.
And when you say you got lost, is that how was the reaction of your parents? Because I can imagine that you then come home hours later than expected.
Oh yeah, sometimes even without a light on my bike because it was a race bike and it was
Wow.
almost dark. Then they were not so happy. But hey, after a while, they learned that I arrived at home decently, so I didn't drink. So they could be pretty okay that I was not drunk or something or did stupid things. It was just happening with the bike. That's okay.
Hmm. Yeah, I can imagine that. Well, it were different times back then, I would say.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, that's what it is. I think our children have a hard time understanding that. Yeah, you would be out. There were no cell phones, and yeah, there were options from phone booths and things like that. But yeah, that's not every 5 or 10 kilometers. That's really usually in the cities and probably not where you were biking.
But
So yeah.
people were okay to help then very easily. So it happened a few times that I had a flat tire and you just ring on the door and you ask for help and people do help. They did. There was no problem at all. Uh,
Wow.
yeah.
That's indeed talking about resourcefulness. Indeed, if you dare to ask for help, well, it's not that you had much choice, of course, in a way. Uh, but yeah, I can imagine that again. This is how you learn as a young boy to indeed, yeah, use the things that are around you and the people around you to, yeah, get your bike fixed and everything.
And
So
trust people. For me, that's a very important part of my life. I trust people by default until they prove I cannot trust them. Whereas a lot of people see that differently. No, no, we can't trust that person because we don't know him or her. I'm like, why would they do something bad to us?
yeah, well, we had some examples in Belgium that were less good, but indeed, if you compare the number of people who did bad things, even to children, it's a very limited amount of people
Mhm.
compared to the vast amount of people who are willing to help and everything like that.
Yeah.
So I think somehow the media it overemphasizes all the bad things that are happening, and I think it was Johanna Rotman who told me about what was it, the bombing at the Boston Marathon. One
Mhm.
of her children was in the Boston Marathon, and so that was very scary as a mother to do. But she told me, like, yeah, there is so many people that help out, and we can focus on, what was it, 5 people who were bombing, but there were thousands of people who were helping out all these all these runners who were stuck, who didn't have a phone, who didn't have
Mhm.
any water or whatever, and they got help
Mhm.
from everybody around. And that's, yeah, but in the media, of course, we focus on these few bad people, and we hardly talk about all the people that help out.
Yeah,
So
agreed.
it it's a nice reminder to hear and to really think about, hey, that's what we did as children. And it's the world is different, but at the same time, it's not. I think in general, most people are indeed helpful and want to help out.
A
Um,
very recent experience also with my bike. It was slippery, and I pulled the brakes on a painted road, and then you of course fall. And immediately there were two people checking out if I was okay and to help immediately. Oh.
so you're still driving your bike a lot?
Not a lot, no, not as much as I would want, and not as much as I would need for having a healthy condition.
Oh yeah, we all recognize that. Well, depending on, of course, I tried. Well, I'm working at home from a walking desk, so I'm walking most of the time. But if I can go, and I'm working at a client now, not that far from me, so I'm able to go by bike, and I'm really happy about that.
That's cool.
That's really cool, because yeah, some movement every day is really
Yeah.
good. Yeah, and if I ask my children, well, the youngest is still is 17, so she still goes to school every day, and actually I think she has to drive further than me, that I have to go to work. So of course I should do the same thing by bike. If she does it, and if my children, all of them, have always done it, why shouldn't I, as a parent, also don't do it?
Definitely.
I think that's part of it. Okay, let's move to that next question. If you had not been doing what you've been doing now, do you have any idea what could have become of you?
Um, I don't think so. I've never been thinking about it. What if? Um, it seemed always that next logical step for me what I was doing. So when I was about 15 years young, yeah, young at that moment, I had a chat with a friend of mine at the playground. I still remember that very well, and he just got his first computer, and we were just chatting, and it interested me. And on a Wednesday afternoon, I went to his house with my bike over there at that moment, and it was a lot of fun. We played some games on it. We did that a few times Wednesday afternoon, sometimes a Saturday afternoon, and I decided to buy my first computer myself, a Commodore 128D. So I had a floppy disk in it. It was amazing.
Whoa.
That was wow. And about sometimes later, I needed to choose my career, my high school, what I wanted to do, and it was a logical step to do software engineering. And so I did software engineering, and then the next logical step was to find a job in that. And then the next logical step, because I saw issues with how things went in that company, I wanted to do quality assurance, not just testing, but really quality assurance. And so from one thing came the next. So I don't know. I don't know. Really don't know what I would be doing. Maybe researcher, because I always find something new to to take on. Then I don't know.
But because you talked about lots of biking, there was never an ambition to dream of becoming a cyclist or something like that.
No, no, I was not at that level. No, I'm a small guy, by the way. I'm a really small guy, 1 meter 60 somethings. So I'm not large enough for most of the
Do they
sport.
have to be large? Yeah, probably. Yeah, there's
It helps you with power in the legs. Yeah.
exactly.
Bigger cycles to turn like.
Yeah. Yeah, that's indeed true. But it's nice that to see also how you moved from the different kind of in a very logical way. Yeah, so that is yeah something that we well, I think many of us see. When you say you were interested in quality assurance, not just testing, what triggered you to move into that direction?
I was really at that time. I was working at an organization, and I saw the code, of course, and I saw that I was not okay from years of legacy. So quality, that was the first aspect of me, coding quality. I thought that was really important. And then when I addressed it with a few colleagues, things came on top of that, like, yeah, but architecture-wise, is that sound? No, it wasn't. Um, from a design perspective, is that sound? No, it wasn't. And so it was way larger than just testing. Of course, you can test it all in. Well, you can't, but anyhow, that was what's happened at that moment. Anyway, let's test it. Let's test it. But it's in fact the most of the things needed to happen up front, and it was that aspect that triggered me most. And yeah, you can then do some tests, but you're way too late typically.
Yeah, but
So
that's
that was
something that was already clear for you at that time that
yeah,
you wanted to do a
yeah,
shift left of the quality in
yeah.
a way.
After about how much time was that? Was it 2, 3 years in my career that I saw that that's not going to fly if you want to do a great job? Yeah, I was pretty
Would
fast. I don't know if it's pretty fast actually. I mean, yeah, compared to some people, it's very fast. Compared to others, probably very slow.
yeah, that's indeed depending on how we compare ourselves with,
Voilà.
and typically we always compare us with people who are ahead of us. I keep thinking also of that when I leave a client. Typically, I'm always disappointed. Like they could have got there, but I've teached myself to look back at when I start. Did I also think they would be able to achieve? And in many cases, the answer is no. It's just that by the time I'm there, I'm comparing by myself with where could we be also, and in a way that yeah. And I think with comparing yourself with others, it feels very similar. Yeah, you always want to, yeah. Well, at least that's how I think I know you. That you look around to learn. You want to
Yeah.
learn some new things, and then typically you compare yourself with people who are
Yeah.
have evolved or are further than you are.
And the more people you know and the more things you see, the more you see, damn, there's still a gap, an important
Yeah.
gap.
The
And
more
it
you
doesn't
know,
seem
the
to
more you
shrink.
know you don't know. That's definitely true.
Correct. Indeed. Indeed. So yeah.
That's and but it's interesting that and so if you look back at the young Stephen, there was never something that you thought, oh, this is what I inspire to be, except then for the moment that you started playing on a computer and then you were interested in that.
No, not to be. Maybe the place to be. That's something else. So
Mm.
probably if I wouldn't have met my wife, that would have been another story. I'm pretty sure I would no longer be here in Belgium. Too rainy. I don't know. Maybe now as independent, the taxes also. But no, I think I would probably do something similar, but then in Canada or
Hmm.
yeah, that was a country
That's
that attracted me.
yeah, I can definitely. But so in a way, sometimes people move to a country for love, and you stay to in the country for love. That's
Yeah, indeed.
it's yeah. But yeah, I can imagine that. And so, what? No, let's turn it into a question. What was the thing that attracted you to other countries? Just the weather, or was there
No,
other things
nature.
that you
For me,
nature?
nature. Yeah.
Mm.
So when I was with my bike, I always took the small roads and driving through the country, and that was what I like most. I'm not a city person, and so also if we go on holidays, it's for walks in nature. So that was my biggest. That would have been my biggest reason to move. Yeah.
And did
Come.
you? Was that ever a serious plan before you met your partner?
It was not a serious plan, but it was quite in front of my mind. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
definitely. And if it wouldn't have been Canada, then it would probably have been Sweden or something like that.
Okay, that's oh yeah, yeah.
Nature.
Nature, both a lot of nature.
Yeah.
Also, not because you talked about the weather. Not known for particularly hot summers or things like that. So it's more
Yeah.
colder there.
Yeah. No, I'm not a person that loves heat. If it's 26, it's good enough. Yeah.
Okay, but you were talking so Belgium. The Belgian weather is more the rain that you don't like. The not particularly the cold.
All
That's
right.
it.
Correct. Yeah.
All right, all right, all right, all right. Let's move to that next question. What is at this point your biggest challenge? At least the biggest challenge that you want to share openly on the internet.
Yeah. Um, these days, for me, it's focus. That's really a challenge. There are a lot of things I want to do and I am doing, and we all teach and coach focus is important in companies, and I'm losing myself a bit in all things that are interesting to do and nice to do and to learn from. So I'm currently guiding one of the organizations in their adaptiveness. So that's a major focus that should be. They have some tracks that I'm supporting even within that company. So on the one hand, I'm supporting one product group, and on the other hand, I'm supporting some Scrum Masters in other product groups. So in that one assignment, I already have quite some work. Next to that, organizing and facilitating Scrum training, which also takes some time, especially the marketing takes quite some time. And then the administrative work, the training in itself is a less work than all the rest together. Yeah, writing a bit left and right, blog posts,
Mm-hmm.
etc., books. Um, and then I'm also trying to figure out how I can help learning and development managers better.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, 4 big tracks in
I would say
parallel.
that's yeah. If you're talking about focus, that's definitely different kind of tracks, all different. Well, just like you said, the training there comes so much with it. The administration, the whole publicity and everything around it. So there is actually a lot going on there. All different kind of things. So how do you deal with that challenge?
On the one hand, different, yes. On the other hand, very related because it's all about agility and using the Scrum framework in better ways. So in that sense, there is alignment for me. So I'm not all of a sudden going to do, I don't know, business analysis, for example. I also stopped all my previous project management trainings because I was certified in it also, and so I stopped all that business because of it's not aligned with my point of view anymore, with what I believe, and so all these things I stopped, and that was very helpful. On the other hand, it does also help me with new insights. So if I'm giving a training, I see 5, 6, 10 people, and they give their experiences, they share their challenges, and that helps me in my assignment with that client, because I learn from others what doesn't work in their organization, and I can project that. So that does help me. And then the writing also, it's about the subject, and it helps me to explain concepts better in my training on the one hand, but also in my consulting assignments. So yep, it's different, but on the other hand, it does align quite well.
But the other part, and that's what I focused a little bit on, the marketing, or and even more the administration, that's
Yeah,
completely different kind of,
yeah,
it needs different skill. Marketing, you could
yeah,
still bring your messages in a creative way about things that you're writing and
yeah.
stuff like that. But administration, that's a whole different ball game, I would say.
That is the dull part that I have to take on. There's no choice; it has to happen. So I try to automate as much as we can.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it
It's
just has
not
to
like
happen.
you want to, I don't know, yeah, outsource that or something. You still want to do that yourself.
Um,
Um,
for now, yes, because it allows me also to understand questions that are still arriving from students and to optimize the process behind it. So there's a lot of stuff automated, but yeah, I still need to do some manual thing. But okay, I just block a Friday afternoon or a Saturday morning and just get it over with.
yeah, I understand. Well, yeah, the first 10 years of my company, I did also all the paperwork. I still had an accountant that double checked it. So it definitely wasn't cheaper doing it, but I learned so much.
Yeah,
But after 10 years, I had enough and then said, okay, now he can do everything.
yeah,
And yeah, but I've learned so much. So I do understand that there is
yeah,
an important part about doing things to learn, to know your numbers, to know everything that's going on. That's definitely
yeah.
something that I can see value in. Um,
So it helps me to put things in perspective and align and learn from one area to use in another area.
and so when you say that challenge is that focus, so I hear part of it, or a big part, is similar kind of things, so that there's yeah, things that align and that help out. Um, where where does that challenge, yeah, what's how does that work out in day to day to balance these different kind of things? Because I can imagine that sometimes clients asks more time of you, or yeah, how does that work from day to day?
My day hours are really focused on my client.
Hmm.
My evening and morning hours are to do the writing of blog posts and similar things. So I really block time for it. If not, it's hardly doable.
So your focus is time based in a way.
Yes,
You have
yeah,
large
time box.
chunks of time
Yeah,
that
yeah.
yeah,
And it's also balanced, agreed with my client when I give training. So they know upfront it's blocked for the whole year. They know this is time blocked for training.
all right, so
Um,
that helps out.
yeah, it does. It does. If I
That's
wouldn't do that, I think I would not have. I would not be able to sleep anymore, I think. Because it's all mixed up then, so you don't want that.
Oh yeah,
Well, I
but
don't.
I recognize that. Well, I'm recording all of these things in the evenings as well, because yeah, I don't want to have use the time on of clients, of
Yeah.
course, and like, I don't know. I think 90% of my LinkedIn posts or others are scheduled, because that's
Mhm.
yeah, that then I don't have to be doing that during the day. It's just that at the evening that I can watch and yeah, and schedule things.
Yeah.
I recognize a lot of that is focus, during the day for the client and in the evening for other stuff or
Yeah.
other moments. I
Yeah.
recognize that.
For me, it also helps me with energy levels. So for me, my trainings, the professional Scrum trainings I facilitate, they give me a lot of energy. Even though I'm that tired every evening, that's something else. But mentally, they gave me lots of energy. Whereas the consulting assignments, which I love to do, but they take a lot of energy because of always having to explain the fundamentals again and again and find different ways to pass the same message and help people in the same direction. That for me is more energy draining. Even I like it.
Yeah, I recognize that. It also makes me think when I was young as a student that I could go out dancing and even without much sleep, it gave me so much energy that it helped me for. And if I would have stayed at home, then actually I would have had less energy the day after, even if I might have slept a couple of hours less. You have to find which are the things that give us energy, and going to conferences or for me also this kind of conversations, they gave me a lot of energy and inspiration and lots of other things. And yeah, with customers, as much as I like it, indeed sometimes we have to again explain it and find ways, and that is can sometimes, not always, but there are days definitely it drains energy, that's for sure. And for doing these kind of things and the multiple things that all that you combine, that gives that you need a lot of passion, you need a lot of drive. Do you know where that drive is coming from?
I hear that from a lot of people that I can give a lot of energy. I think it comes because of my reasons, my why, and I've once done an exercise on that for myself, and what came out of it is that I want to help others become better versions of themselves. This is what I really want, and if I then do it through coaching or mentoring or training, or it doesn't really matter, this is what I really want to do, be it in private life or in professional life. By the way, this is what gives me so much energy. If I can help people growing,
Yeah, and
learning,
that's again something I hear here a lot, and helping out people, growing. I recognize myself, but there's actually a lot of people doing that. But I also heard something, I think, earlier on in our conversation when you say the grinta that you needed to have to drive with your bike for a long time. I guess there was also yeah, something that you've learned to keep working on things, because yeah, that's sometimes also what you need to do
yeah.
if you create a business on your own, if you do have to do training and whatever, that sometimes you need a lot of energy and you need to keep going. And that's something that I think you said earlier on, that as a yeah, driving your bike, that you had a lot of that as well.
Probably it comes from that, and I'm also someone that doesn't give up. So I'm sometimes in assignments, and I explain to colleagues how it went, and they say, "But why do you continue?" And typically for me, it's as long as I see a little opening, a little door that's a little bit open, I try to keep going and find ways to help people in that situation to push the door completely open or just a bit more. Yeah, for me that's important, just to keep going. And it's exceptional that I just stop a contract because I don't like it anymore. There must be some important reasons that I don't continue. As long as there's a little opening, there's a little opening.
Yeah, and I recognize that. I might sometimes go too long because I might think yeah, this is something I've discussed also with a joint friend of us, Jürgen de Smet, that
Yeah,
I typically stay longer than he's kind of quicker, like, no, it's not working anymore. And I sometimes think, okay, maybe I stayed too long, but I recognize what you say. Sometimes you see an opening and you think, okay, there's still some more people that are interested to learn, so let's bring some more energy, let's try some more.
yeah.
And then we come back to what we said earlier, then sometimes this drains energy. But on the other hand, if we succeed, or at least that's how it feels to me, if I get a door more open, or if I see other people finally getting something that gives so much energy as well for me. Is that the same for you?
Yeah, that's the same. It all depends how someone defines succeed. And if you're happy that some people have moved 5 steps ahead, that's a success. Why not? But yeah, I recognize what you're saying, and some people say, Stephen, it's you should stop earlier because it doesn't make sense. The impact is not large enough anymore for what the company pays, and it might be indeed that the company impact is not um,
True. That's
not
that's
so
another
big
question.
that they can see it or feel it, but for the people in the teams, it's pretty important sometimes.
Yeah, I recognize that. Well, talking about these kind of achievement, that kind of automatically brings me to that next question. What do you consider your biggest achievement? And what I've learned when I do this series is that basically this is your moment to brag and to be really proud. So there is a sub question there. Is it easy for Steven to brag and to be really proud about things you achieved?
No, I'm far from bragging. No, no, I wouldn't know.
No. No, but that's a little bit why I'm asking the question, because
Yeah,
there's many people here who either have that, or even afterwards say, ah, it was hard for me to come up with something, or I didn't want to do that, and so that's
yeah,
why I started asking that sub question.
no,
So knowing that,
yeah.
what do you consider your biggest achievement?
Well, I will continue after your first point. That sometimes it's a small thing for that we think it's not a big thing, but for others it might be. I was working at an organization, and they built agricultural machines like balers and tractors and stuff. And I was there with 3 teams, in total 24 people. And I ended the contract about a year later, and it was because they needed a budget cut, and I said I will help you out. Let's let's finish my contract, and immediately the people are saved on the team. Um, and so I talked with people just before I left, and I said, "Look, guys, we are now about a year and something further, and my feeling, if I compare it with what I would expect after a year in using Scrum and other agile ways of working, is like we made maybe 1 or 2 baby steps." And I was not expecting that. I was expecting some bigger steps. And the answer I got from them, which makes me a little bit proud anyway, is that, Stephen, we would never want to go back, even if it's such a small step. And I was like, but why? What do you mean by that? And the answer was, before we did these exercises with you, we never got a listening ear at the management side. And now they listen to us and we listen to them, and together we can find solutions. Maybe it's not easy, but at least now there is a door that is open with management, and we can have a chat with them. And I was like, if that takes a year and you're happy with that, okay, I would expect that after 2 months and a half maybe. But for them, given their context, it was such a big leap apparently, that for them that was very important. So that was something I thought, and looking back, I was like, okay, if they feel that, that's an important achievement, then indeed.
Yeah, I really like that. Well, especially the yeah, we don't want to go back. I'm very tempted to then think, but that's not a small step, and yeah, it doesn't really matter how big or how small the step is. If people say we're somewhere where we don't want to return, that is an achievement. And I assume if we would go back in 5, 10, 20 years, that will have so much more, because if you have conversations with management at whatever level that is, that's actually is giving a lot of, yeah, movement and a lot of things. um, the thing is that typically you don't see what is the advantage of this, because you don't know where you would have gone without that conversations. But
Yeah,
typically a lot more frustration and probably a lot less achievement of things.
yeah.
Uh,
But what you would expect after a year work, for what I was expecting anyway at that period in my career, was that sprint reviews are working pretty well, refinements are working pretty well, retrospectives are working pretty well, but that was not the case. that was really not the case. I saw huge steps that could still be made, and I was like, okay, if that's useful, then awesome. Who am I to say that's not awesome?
Hmm. Yeah, I recognize that, and well, sometimes we again, I said before that I compare to where I want to go, and sometimes we compare also where others have gone before them and they could go, but maybe that's not their goal. Like yeah, if you for you, like you say, okay, I never even thought about a cycling career because I just wanted to be out in nature and cycling.
Yeah.
Others could say, but for all the time you spent, you could have, well, no, that was not your goal, and so you're happy with that. Um, and that's probably for these companies as well. Like,
Mhm.
okay, we are already happy now that we are on a communication or on an open door with our management.
Yeah.
So that's for them. So that is indeed a very nice achievement for to look into. So that's something nice to have achieved.
What I also found very great in my career was becoming a professional Scrum trainer, and not because of any titles or so, but just because of the experience.
Mm.
So, little anecdote. So I enrolled for it and passed a few chats and conversations with people. So I started my trainer, and we got a little intro that we were okay participants in that session. And Eve, it was about 10:30 the first morning, and I was already counting on my fingers. I learned this, I learned that, I learned that. I learned so much, and I was like, but just a second, am I sure I can even become that? And
Mm.
the humbleness it brought me was very interesting to experience. And
Because
then,
like you said before, you were already you learned Scrum earlier on,
yeah,
so way before. So
yeah,
it's not like you were not familiar with the framework. And
agreed.
so even in very early in the beginning of the first day, you already say, hey, I learned a lot of other stuff.
So much, and it made me so humble. Like, wow, if I go for trainer and there's still so much to learn, whoa,
Hmm.
that was a very interesting experience. Yeah, there were
And
that was really the Scrum values that came alive.
and and so that also means, I guess, that you went in to that training with a very open mind and an eagerness to learn, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's always important for me. That's always important. If I go somewhere, it is to learn. It's not to prove, it's to learn.
Mm.
But small things sometimes, like observing how others react to simple words.
Could you give an example? Because I'm not sure I fully grasp that.
We are not prioritizing, we are ordering. And then you see people looking, what? And I was also at that moment, what? And then you start to understand after some explanations of the lead trainer in that case, what it means. But how people react on that is always interesting to see how you can better bring messages to people and taking into account their context, taking into account how they feel about certain things. Because there were people from Spain, there were people from India, there were people from the UK, from the US, and these cultures reacting to words. It's very
Mm.
interesting to see and to, yeah, take into account when you're dealing with people in transformations and trainings and coachings and
Thanks for bringing that up, because indeed, when we work with people from different cultures, we don't always think enough about that, how people react to certain words and certain
yeah,
habits that people have, and we, well, yeah, we all know the famous things that people in India say yes like this, but there is so much more than that. There is so much subtleties in all kind of languages,
yeah.
all kind of things, and so that's really. Um, and so that means that that trainer was also paying attention to this and encouraging these
Yeah.
discussions between the people from the different
Yes,
kind of
yes. She was, and I'm not exaggerating in my career if I say she was the best observer that I've never met.
wow.
She pinpointed out things in people that I was like, okay, amazing. You've seen that in about 5 minutes talk. Things about
And
myself, things about, yeah, wow.
and do you care to share the name, because it's a
Yeah,
trainer that had a lot of impact on you?
yeah, Stephanie Ockerman.
Stephanie. Oh, we're yeah. Okay, we'll talk some more later on, I think,
Okay.
with her. Let's move to that next question. Um, do you have a personal agility tip to share?
Patience. We are in change. If we want to introduce new practices, if we want to do an entire transformation, it's all about changing, making people change, helping them through the change. And whatever I think is easy might for some people be pretty difficult, or the reverse. Yesterday again, I was thinking this should be easy. What is refinement about? Why do we do refinement? Um, and then, yeah, you were faced with people who said, no, that's not what we feel what we should be doing. And so, patience again and again.
And is that, when did you learn that? Is it something that you always had as a young person, or is that something that is just coming with growing older and wiser, or how should I
Um,
see that?
I think I don't even have it yet. I have some more than, for example, probably Jurgen de Smet, that we already mentioned, but I still don't have enough patience. And then it expresses itself in taking shortcuts for myself, in using harder wordings, being more direct, sometimes being too direct. And if I start feeling that, Steven, patience, slow down again, use different words again. And it's not easy. Well, for me anyway, it's not easy.
But I recognize also something that I've noticed more and more. Like all these most companies, they have some kind of slogans and some kind of values, and typically for me, more and more, I think like the reason why a company has these values is because internally they are not there yet. They want to be more transparent. They want to be, I don't know, there's some different thing, and it feels a little bit similar to you. Like you say, okay, I bring in the tip patience because it's the one thing or one of the things that I want to become better at. Is that similar to these things,
That
or?
might be the case, because it's indeed something I feel I'm still missing in it. Yeah, could be, could be. What I notice in company values is that I'm not sure that they really want these values. If I see management saying we want that, and 2 minutes later they act completely different, is it something that they really believe in, or is it something that some other people just have drawn up and put it on a wall or something?
Yeah, there is that as well, especially if it's on the wall and we're not
Yeah.
talking about it. But I've noticed also with people who really, yeah, really want these kind of things, but also select it because they know as a company they're not there yet, and they might, yeah, and typically this is also a little bit like, yeah, all these things come top down. The problems that a top manager has trickle down
Mhm.
to the rest of the company, yeah, and so very similar kind of things. And so, when you say that this, you still need more, at what point did you learn that hey, this is something, or how did you learn that you wanted to have more patience?
Apparently, the best lessons are the hard way. So it was somewhere, I think, 2003, something like that, when I was looking into quality assurance, as I mentioned earlier. I saw something happening in that organization, and I jumped in the mail. I've written quite a heavy mail, put it a lot of people in copy, and that was the end of my career in that company, because I was not open enough, patient enough to go listen and to find reasons why and to convince people, and the hard way, the really hard way.
But okay, you do this, and then then later on you reflect
Yeah.
like, okay, I could have waited and I could have.
Yeah.
And is this something that you then work with a coach or with someone else on doing that, reflecting, or do you
Um,
just do it on your own, or how does that work for you?
at that moment, I didn't have a coach, so that was a personal reflection at that moment. Afterwards, I've got two people, three people that I could go to with questions and how would I deal with that and what if. Um, and that's always interesting to have a few people like that. I see them as my mentors, even though they don't know. They're just like you just call them and you have a chat and you deal with it, and it's very helpful. Or you go for a dinner and you talk about things, and they help out without even knowing. And it's not that I want to take advantage of them. I've said it to someone, to all three of them even. Um, it just happens. It just happens. I have a colleague who has taken a coach, but for me, it just happened, and I'm
Yeah,
very happy with them, with each three, with all the three of them.
but that's why I was asking, because yeah, I've been using coaches for a very long time, on and off, sometimes changes, and there was indeed a couple of people that, yeah, I can send out an email or have a conversation with, that yeah, or my unofficial mentors in a way,
Yeah.
that's or that yeah, might I don't know, when I do something online or whatever, they might, yeah, give me some advice that unsolicited or not, but
Mhm.
that's different for me than indeed going to a coach and or ringing someone up and then saying, hey, can we have a discussion about that, because that's indeed
Yeah.
very very helpful. And like you say, sometimes, yeah, when we do bad things, just reflecting is also learnful. um, I think that's sometimes, well, I've seen it in my past that I don't always did it enough, or I waited like 4 or 5 years before reflecting on something I've
Yeah.
done, where reflecting helps so much alone or with other people
Yeah.
to learn something.
I've had a period in which I actually planned it every 2 weeks,
Mm.
2 hours reflection. What happened? What could I have done better? Um, it helped me at that moment. I stopped
And is
doing it.
that just thinking, or is it writing down?
For me, I'm a writer. I have to
Mm.
write down.
So it's, yeah.
Traditional pen and paper. I just have to write.
Mm. Yeah, there's yeah, a lot of people that I know that say, okay, just on a regular basis, if it's weekly or daily or monthly, whatever, but just free
Yeah.
writing helps to come up with stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah, I can't come up with the right name, but I know that Vasco Duarte also talked to me about, okay, it's really helpful for him to yeah, to on a regular basis take some notes and just
Yeah.
reflect on things. That's so there's actually multiple tips in one. I love this.
Why
So,
not?
but all, yeah, definitely, and they're all connected. So that's really nice. Let's move to that next question. What have you learned about remote working? And maybe before we jump into that question, when did you start with remote working? Was that something you did, like all of us did at COVID, or did you do that before as well?
No, it really started for me at COVID. I just before COVID, there was a year where I decided I will not take a client and I will just give training and have fun with trainings. And then 2 weeks before COVID, I decided, yeah, let's find another client. I'm ready for it again to coach on Teams. And then COVID struck, and then yeah, find a client all remote, and I did. I did find one. So now for me, it was a COVID time. My experience with it so far is that you can do okay-ish work, but I don't feel since then that I have ever met really highly effective teams since then. Never ever again so far. On the other hand, before it, I also met about two or three highly effective teams. Fair enough. Fair enough. I'm very, very honest about that.
Mm.
Um, but the tools today don't, for me, they don't feel that it allows to become highly effective as a team. Communication, as we know, is a large part is non-verbal. And the only part that you see now of me is my head, and you see some movement and some gesture and some emotion probably, but you don't see half of me even. Um,
And
so
like you said earlier on, you talked about your height. Nobody knows how big or how small You are, unless you
Correct.
mention it yourself.
Correct. So I'm very impressive here, of course. Yeah, no, that's true. But it's also in the small things. I was working on site a few weeks ago with that company, and we were back to back with a colleague, and all of a sudden I receive a mail, and I'm looking at it. It's from the lady behind my back, just a question, an informative question, and I was like, "But hey, just why don't you just turn around and tick on my
And
shoulder and ask?" These are the small things that are people are not used to it and even anymore. While before you just asked, you went to the coffee machine, you had a great conversation. Half of it was probably weekend and other stuff, but most of the part is on work related items. And all these spontaneous interactions, you just lose. So it's harder to get to know people in another way, even though it's at work, which is needed because it's a person. People talk about work-life balance, and for me, it's in one word: it's life balance.
Well,
There's
and I think the like I still think it's possible to do a lot of that remote, just like we're
yes,
doing now. But we have to plan it. We have to take time for it, and somehow people don't do it. Just like you say, you're sitting next to each other. You should just talk to each other.
Mhm.
And remote, you should also find ways to talk. But somehow, yeah, we haven't learned much of these skills, and we actually, like your example gives, de-learning some skills on how to physically work together.
Yeah. I can, for example, compare my training business. Huh? So before COVID, during COVID, after COVID. So before COVID, in person training all of the time, and afterwards, I frequently got questions from people, from past participants. Sometimes about the topic itself, sometimes about something they heard that I was doing, but they stayed in contact, a large part of them. From the people and COVID of the entire period, and I think I gave about 3, 4 trainings, 5 trainings a year easily. I've got 0 questions.
Wow.
Really zero, zero. I don't have to end at zero. Then COVID stopped, and I still published trainings to give remote, and I published trainings to do in person. Since COVID, I received 0 requests for an online training. So
Wow.
people do prefer, in Belgium anyway, they do prefer the on-site trainings because they feel they learn way more, way more. They interact way more, they learn way more, they share way more. Um, and I think that sums it up for me about
Well, and
remote
I,
work.
I recognize, well, you're not the first. I think there's a couple of other people from the Netherlands. So Belgium, Netherlands, more or less same kind of culture that said very similar kind of things that says people still want physical trainings. In some other parts of the world, people are more asking
Yeah.
for remote trainings, but it definitely seems that in Belgium and the Netherlands there is more people who
Yeah.
are going for physical. Of course, the distances are not that far in Belgium and Netherlands. Netherlands a little bit bigger, but
After COVID, I've got people flying in from South Africa, from
oh,
Sweden, from Germany, from India, but most of them, of course, from Belgium.
yeah,
But they come
definitely. But
from the
they come
world.
from everywhere.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's something I didn't see because yeah, I would think there are still Scrum trainers also in most of these countries. So somehow they say like, no, we want it from Steven. So that's
I don't know if it's for me or if it's they want to join another European city and visit it. I don't know that. But then I'm happy they come to Brussels.
then you do your marketing in the right way that they still come to you and pay you for joining. But no, well, we can joke about it, but I
Yeah,
think there is a large part, of course, that they do want to learn from, yeah, from you as well. Otherwise, would it probably be a lot cheaper to just visit Belgium without the course, I
definitely,
would say.
definitely.
Okay, I want to move to that book. What's a book that you have read that you want to talk about?
The latest one that I really loved was Radical Candor. from Kim
And
Scott.
that's
Yeah.
this book.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's, why should people read this?
I feel that, especially in the companies and the cultures that I come, people don't dare to speak openly. And the book helps us to understand, first of all, why it's important, because it helps people, in fact, to be radical candor, and it also gives ways to think about it, to what to pay attention to if you do it, and what happens if you don't do it. So it really was very useful for me to talk with some people, with my clients. It's a really useful book to understand. Damn, we need to be way more radical, of course, with respect. Be open about it. How do I feel because something happened, and why doesn't it help? Why does it help? Um,
And do you ever have the feeling that that for some people, because I've read the book as well, and I have a dual feeling with the book. I love it for the exact reasons that you say, but I've also seen some people who are that are not tactful and who are not empathy kind of abuse the book to keep doing what they're doing. I'm not sure
yeah,
if you understand what I mean.
but I think there the book even says it. So they have the four quadrants, and don't kill me because I'm very bad at recalling things. But one of these areas is really saying you can be so direct, but without respect, and just wanting to say what you want to say. But that's not what radical candor is about. And it's
I
what we
agree,
say.
but
They wrongly use it. But if you've read the book, you understand that. You understand that, hey, this is not radical candor. That's just making a mess of people.
yeah, and that actually um, probably is because people might not have read the book, but they just read as a small part of it, or they
Yeah.
think they understand it after just reading the introduction and say, no, I know how to do this, and then
Yeah.
not continue reading.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other part that we have in our industry. People sometimes read a small part and then think they understand the full book without spending,
I've seen
reading
it.
everything.
I've seen it with so many things that I say, hey guys, but you've read something and you don't know what you're talking about. For example, and it's something completely different. It's project management, Prince 2. It's an awesome book. It's really great. If you use it in the correct setting, it's really good. But Scrum is better in another context. And if you don't know, then you don't know.
Yeah, I recognize that looking at the context and looking at at the details on where to use it and when to use certain things, that is definitely something that is very important. And this is why a lot of agile coaches might say it depends, or we might not say yes no, because the questions that sometimes we were asked don't give enough of the context and what people want to apply something.
There's a reason why we're doing Agile, Yves. We are in a certain context and it works. So don't apply it to roadworks.
There is definitely things like that. And I what was it again? I gave the example yesterday where I was at a training that I did for high school a couple of weeks ago, where I give the example of situational leadership, and it's like, if there is a fire, you're not going to sit down and just discuss what's the best way to get out of the building. No, there is a plan, and there is somebody who's assigned that when there is a fire, you follow that person, and that person has been drilled in. When this happens, that's the exit, and when that exit is blocked, that's the backup plan, and whatever. You're not going to start discussing. People might disagree, but then you need to discuss later. But
Yep.
right now, in the how would I did I say it? In the crisis, you follow the crisis plan.
Yeah.
After the crisis, you can look back, and hopefully you do, and try to learn from it.
Correct. So I advise the people to really read it.
Yeah, that
This
I
book.
really like that. That's I haven't read the second edition because I think there is a second edition, but I've read the first edition, and I like this as much as you do. But I've seen two leaders actually trying to abuse it, but I didn't really think a lot about that time if
Yeah.
they actually have read that.
Yeah.
But there were definitely people that that needed to learn the empathy part much more than the candor part.
Yeah.
Which most people that I advise this book to have the opposite. They need to learn much more, like you say, daring the candor part.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a good remark there. Let's move to that next question. What's a question that you think I should also ask you, and what's the answer?
And the answer. Okay.
Well, let's start with the question, of
Yeah.
course.
I think an interesting question would be, how do you see the role of simplification in the future of agile transformations, and certainly in large and complex organizations? I think that's an interesting one.
So how do you see that?
Well, the world is more and more complex. It's going faster and faster. Look at how AI all of a sudden boosted, and it's not going to slow down. So it's change happens so fast, and complexity grows and grows. So if we are now going to add even more complexity to manage the complexity through all different governance systems and management systems and etc., it will go crazy for people. So simplification is what needs to happen in organizations. The bigger your organizations, the more work you have to do to keep it simpler and simpler and simpler. So less of everything, less roles, less processes, less tools, less. Less is more.
And so how do you start with that? So when there is a person or there's a company where you see a lot of complexity, how do you start addressing this?
I think the most important thing is first, where is it really hurting them? And then see how can we find something that's simpler, that moves some of the pain away. For example, there are still a lot of companies, and current client again, who are saying we are doing agile. And then you see there is 2 sprints of analysis, there's 2 sprints of development, there's 2 sprints of testing. I'm like, what? And these, for example, getting rid of one of these roles of or analysis or testing is a first move. Less roles. It's difficult, but even still these days, these departments still do exist.
Yeah, I like that you say just by removing things. I do remember another customer where I worked where they when I joined, they literally had they had more or less, when I looked into the numbers, they had more or less a release every 3 months, but it was completely unpredictable. One time it was so after a month, and another time after 4 months, and 6 months. So if I look back at the statistics from the last 2-3 years, it was like more or less every 3 months. And then we brought it back to once every month. And yeah, so in a way, and that was with 2-week development, 2-week testing. And that feels very agile, but at least they were releasing like clockwork. They keep doing it now for more than a year. They're releasing every month. So for me, that was like, okay, that's a big improvement. There were people like, yeah, but it's much more waterfallish. Yeah, but before you were doing basically chaos. You could call it more agile, but you were not predictable. Yeah, sorry, but then let's look for what's the first step we can take to make us predictable and remove some of the other things that we had.
Definitely.
That's
simpler tools. Make them more easy. Before we had a whiteboard and post-its. It worked perfectly if we were working together. And now we are working remote and we need other tools. And I agree, we need other tools. It cannot be on the same whiteboard physically. I have one here. But then find a solution for that. You don't need these tools which provide you 3,000 query possibilities and filter possibilities. And if you need that, probably there's something way too complex already for your organization.
Oh yeah, well, the that brings me back to the 20-year-old joke now that limited space on the whiteboard, that was a feature, that was not a bug. I mean, there was a limit there, and you could only add so many post-its, and so your backlog was physically limited, so you couldn't work on 10,000 things. And then we had all these electronic tools, and now we have 3,000 stories and 5,000 bugs, and I don't know what. Yeah, that's a little bit a problem.
Yeah.
Not a little bit. That's a big problem.
Yeah. And then you look at the last updated date of a story, and it's dated 2019 or something.
Yeah, that's and people, yeah, that's yeah. I think going back to Jürgen, there's a couple of times when we worked that we just threw away everything that was older than 6 months, and in one company I do remember that nobody noticed for more than 3 months,
Mhm.
and then they said, oh, but that was bad. You could not have done it. Like, well, you didn't notice, so probably, and still 6 months was still a lot of things, but yeah, it was an experiment to see if people would notice it, and nobody noticed. So okay, so maybe we don't need that large backlog.
We did something quite similar with the management reporting in one of my clients at a certain moment. We just canceled all management reports, all of them. We still maintained them because you never know someone is asking them, so we maintained them for a bit. And the first question we had was at by the end of the quarter of that period we started it. And that was because, hey, what's the budget here? How is the finance going? So it was only the financial manager who needed status reports on budget. Okay, fair enough. So now we know there's a question. Let's do that. We won a lot of time. A lot of time.
I can imagine, and so yeah, that's and indeed not doing and then seeing if something is happening is usually something very useful. So already a couple of examples of how people can make things simpler. So
Yeah.
thank you for doing that. Let's oops, I have something strange on my screen. Let's go back to yeah, to the people. What are who do you think I oops, and it doesn't come, yeah, now it comes. Who do you think I should ask next?
I have two names for you, Yves. Olivier Costa, I think is
This
one
is
of
Olivier.
that is him. Yeah, agreed. Correct. Yeah.
So why should I talk to Olivier?
He's an awesome guy who knows quite a lot of technical excellence topics. He's really good at that. So if I need someone with my clients and we have a problem of technical excellence, this is the person who I call. He is damn good at it. He brings it with a certain flair, easy to understand. He has good explanations, has good examples, good working spirit. Amazing guy.
Yeah, well, I've worked for a very long time with Olivier. We met each other back in 2004 or something like that.
Okay.
So we going back from a very long time. So I was really happy to see this invite coming in, because he was. I have a large list. So for the people who don't know, I have. I think this weekend I ended up adding 751 to my list, my backlog of
Okay.
people. Which of now 162 that have been published. So there's more than, let's say, than 200 people that what I say, more than 500 people that I can still invite, or that I have invited and that I have not spoken to. And he was on that list, I think, from the very first moments. Of course, the list keep growing, because I talked to one person today and you're going to give me two names. So that's how this list explodes. And I also don't promise that I will talk to everybody on the list. I just invite based on indeed when people like you invite someone. I send out an email, and if people react rather quickly, then I have that conversation and I publish it. If people take a long time, then they might not be invited. That depends a little bit on people schedule themselves. That's
Of
a little
course.
bit how I deal with this
Yeah.
backlog.
Nice.
And so you had a second person as well.
Yeah.
Let's bring
Her name is Stefanie Okkerman.
and that's the person that you
Yeah.
mentioned her name earlier on,
Yeah.
which was that great Scrum trainer. So
Yeah.
let's dive some more into that. Why should I have to invite her?
She has a very good way of explaining difficult concepts in an easy way. Her knowledge about Scrum is very, very large, has great experiences, great stories. She's also very humble, is a very great observer, can give very good feedback. Yeah, I've met her only a few times, and I was like, wow. She's also written a book, The Professional Scrum Master. It's a very good book, so another book to recommend to people. So good writer, clearly explained. Yeah, nice person.
She was invited before by Simon Reindl, I think.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, so far she had not accepted. So I do hope that with a second person asking for her to come, that she will join here as well. Now there's even more demand. And somehow I had forgotten that she had written that book.
Oh.
Although now that you mentioned it, I was like, of course.
Yeah.
She actually co-wrote it with Simon, who
Yeah.
invited her.
Indeed, correct.
So,
yeah.
Wonderful. Steven, this has been a really great conversation. This is how I like to spend my evenings, just having a friendly chat, connecting. Like I said, remotely we can do this if we take some time. For the people that want to connect with you, what's the best way to connect with you?
The easiest way for me is LinkedIn.
And that should be
Steven Deneir. Yep, that's it. Exactly that one.
So
that's the easiest way. Yeah, I regularly check. I get notices of it. So yeah.
Wonderful, and that's indeed how well. Of course, we've seen each other before, but that's indeed how we got everything scheduled here as well.
Yeah.
I want to really thank you for your evening. It's like you say, you spent this, or like you said up front, you told your family, okay, I will be focusing here. But I'm really glad that you want to do this and you want to spend that time with me.
It was really my pleasure. Yeah, I really loved it. It was a nice chat.
Yeah, for me, it's always nice, even if we could have basically driven, because it's not that far. But then setting everything up, this is much easier this way, of course.
Yeah, for publishing for you, it is definitely.
Yeah, because I do have to. Well, about every minute that we talk here, I need about 2 more minutes to editing. Even though I do very limited editing, just watching everything, and there is still some time. Which is, just like you said before, the less interesting part. The interesting part is having the conversations and the trainings, but the administrative part and everything else. But then again, it allows me to have these conversations. So I'm really happy that we could have spent that time. And I do hope that we run into each other in person again in one of the conferences. In the near future.
I would love it. I would really love that. Yeah, it would be awesome to have a chat in person. Maybe with dinner. Then you would have had your dinner already now, and
then I would have had my dinner. But I just had So I will. I actually, like I said it in the pre-conversations, that my partner and my daughter were to have a dinner, and I just saw them. Well, just 10-20 minutes ago, I saw them go away from the table. So I will join them later. But okay. I will first download it, making sure that this is everything, that the recording is fine, and only then start.
Thanks for having me, Yves.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Who's Agile, where the stories of agilists come to life. I hope you liked today's interview. Subscribe if you're not subscribed and want to get to know other agilists.